Welcome to the Week 2 video lecture for Land Use and Planning. This week, we will be exploring three concepts: communities of place, communities of interest, and social capital. A community of place, or place-based community, is a community of people who are bound together because of where they reside, work, visit, or otherwise spend a continuous portion of their time. Such a community can be a neighborhood, town, coffee house, or even a bar. The TV show Cheers was a perfect example of a community of place. Communities of place can be centered around workplaces, public spaces, parks, or any other geographically specific place that a number of people share, have in common, or visit frequently. The term community can be confusing because it has such a wide variety of meanings. The biggest disconnect occurs when we use the term interchangeably to refer to communities of interest and to communities of place. The two terms are distinct, but they can actually overlap and support one another. When we speak of arts communities, for example, we are referring to communities of interest. Artists who consider themselves part of the same community may or may not be located in the same geographical place, but they consider themselves connected nonetheless because of their shared interest. The same terminology is frequently applied to communities of faith, communities with shared cultural or social bonds such as ethnic communities, professional communities, and the electronic or virtual communities that spring up as a result of the internet and online chat groups. As far back as Alexis de Tocqueville, the American penchant for interest-based communities, an unusually powerful desire to seek out and bond with those with whom we believe we have something in common, has been heralded as one of our strengths. Communities of interest, however, cannot fully supplant communities of place. Unlike communities of interest, communities of place are rooted in geography. They are the places where we live, where we work, where we shop. They are where the institutions of our daily lives, schools, churches, community centers, are located. All too often today, these place-based communities are too fragile, too attenuated, or too disconnected to sustain fulfillment and prosperity for the people who live there. Increasingly, strong communities of interest are being called upon to focus energy on reinforcing and strengthening communities of place. A sense of belonging and the concrete experience of social networks and the relationships of trust, etc., that are involved can bring significant benefits. However, the sense of attachment and quality of social networks varies greatly between the different communities that we could name. It could be argued that we should be focusing on enhancing the quality of social networks rather than the creation or strengthening of community. The notion of social capital is a useful way of entering into debates about civil society, and it is central to the arguments of Putnam and others who want to reclaim public life. This is how Putnam introduces the idea. Whereas physical capital refers to physical objects and human capital refers to the properties of individuals, social capital refers to connections among individuals, social networks, and the norms of reciprocity and trustworthiness that arise from them. In that sense, social capital is closely related to what some have called civic virtue. The difference is that social capital calls attention to the fact that civic virtue is most powerful when embedded in a sense network of reciprocal social relations. A society of many virtuous but isolated individuals is not necessarily rich in social capital. In other words, interaction enables people to build communities, to commit themselves to each other, and to knit the social fabric. Putnam marshals an impressive amount of material to demonstrate that child development is powerfully shaped by social capital. Trust, networks, and norms of reciprocity within a child's family, school, peer group, and larger community have far reaching effects on their opportunities and choices, and hence on their behavior and development. Public spaces in high social capital areas are cleaner, people are friendlier, and the streets are safer. Traditional neighborhood risk factors, such as high poverty and residential mobility, are not as significant as most people assume. Places have higher crime rates in large part because people don't participate in community organizations, don't supervise younger people, and aren't linked through networks of friends. A growing body of research suggests that where trust and social networks flourish, individuals, firms, neighborhoods, and even nations prosper economically. Social capital can help to mitigate the insidious effects of socioeconomic disadvantage. There appears to be a strong relationship between the possession of social capital and better health. As a rule of thumb, if you belong to no groups but decide to join one, you cut your risk of dying over the next year in half. If you smoke and belong to no groups, it's a toss-up statistically whether you should stop smoking or start joining. Regular club attendance, volunteering, entertaining, or church attendance is the happiness equivalent of getting a college degree or more than doubling your income. Civic connections rival marriage and affluence as predictors of life happiness. This week, we explore the concepts of communities of place, communities of interest, and social capital through our readings and discussion.